Hey everybody, I'm Romi. This is the real Romi, and on this episode, it's just me. It's just me. I took like a week off, maybe like a week or two. I can't remember. It was like Christmas, holidays. Just a lot has happened. A lot has happened. A lot of change. A lot of good things. I feel like everyone's just coming off of like the holidays and we just needed a break. I needed a break, but I wanted to jump in, still doing the YouTube, ready for the new year, ready for great interviews, chatting with people about identity and, who they are and what made them and what makes them and what drives them and different stories, which is what I'm fascinated by. But really, I'm coming on here to kind of check in. I just felt like it was time. So for those of you who follow me on social media, Madre Romi, I'm pretty active on there, but how do I say it? It's like I'm active and I share so much, but I don't share so much. In reality, the real me is really private. There's a lot I don't share. And my best friend Jenny knows, pretty much like that part of me. She sees it. So she sees how it may appear through social media, how I'm just like putting everything out there, but she knows like the day to day, and I'm not. So much so that I finally put out there that I got married in August. I didn't share that. I went a few months, right, without putting that out there. It was mine. It was private. It was something I did in private. It was something that when I was ready to share, I would. And one day soon, I'll get into more of the details of that. But it shows that like what we think we see or what we see in somebody isn't always what it is. So like, have grace, right? Because over the last few months of me, kind of just like being on my own, which I have been, I wasn't in my relationship with Jamie. So for those of you asking 1,000 questions, I thought I'd come on here and just kind of answer a few of them because everyone seems so confused, which it's not my job to justify or explain my life. But I will to a certain degree because people are along for the journey with me, and I'm so grateful for all of you and all the things that I put out there and do and invite you into, right? So there's like a level of which I feel I like to share an explanation and what's going on, and then a part of me that's just like so private. So my dynamic and some of the questions you guys are asking, is it's okay. First of all, I just turned 43. My birthday was just a few days ago. We'll get into that. This is an interesting new chapter for me, as most of them are, as every season of evolution and identity stepping and who I become and what I make. I will say that for those of you who have followed me for years, know that James Haven and I have had an on and off relationship, friendship, love, all kinds of different relationships for a very long time, since I was 20. I've shared our on and off story through my social media to the degree of which I wanted to share. And when we chose to share our vows in like a private ceremony in Laguna Beach, which was all over the news, it was kind of wild. It just kind of, when I shared the news, I didn't realize that his sister, who is Angelina Jolie, everyone is asking me if that is her brother. And yes, that is her brother. It is her brother, but we're going to work on it not being Angelina Jolie's brother, and it's James Haven, his own identity and person. But when I released the video, I wasn't aware that his sister had just finalized her divorce and that was in the news. And so I all of a sudden am in a situation where I'm like, we're so happy and we've reunited and I'm going to fly home and we're going to actually try and see if we can like, you know, save our marriage. And I posted it with so much joy, and it was just caught up in the swirl of his sister's life, which is unfortunate for him that it's always like, you know, circles around that. But anyways, it all of a sudden it was like last week I was at home and the news was just like every page was about our wedding, like page 6, New York Times, like everything. And I was trying to like wrap my head around how I went from it being so private, no one knowing but like maybe 3 people in my life and those that were there, and then it being like I posted it, which I've posted things many times on my social media, and that just has never really happened, but that's fine. So it got picked up and put out there, and everyone knows now, right? And there was a lot of like, oh, I took this thing that was like such a secret, right, that was mine, and I revealed it and I put it out there, and I put it in people's hands to like, of course, have an opinion, right? And what we see online and what we don't see online, like, again, I just want to drive this message home. Like, we just never know. I mean, so much so that people were saying like, oh, you know, his sister didn't come to the wedding because she didn't want to see him kissing me or something like that, because they had their famous kiss at the Golden Globes years ago, which is like ridiculous stuff. Some of the commenting on like what went down was just, I mean, none of it was true. But the part that was true is that we did exchange our vows in Laguna Beach in August, and much like I posted, we did, you know, break up pretty much the next day. And that is a story that I shared on another time. But what I'm sharing here is just kind of how the last few months, you know, I was like just in my own space, my own time. I've been alone, you know, and with Jenny, my best friend, who, yes, is was my fiance at one point. We had ended our engagement, you know, I'd gotten back with Jamie, and her and I are best friends. We're life partners. She is the Idgie to my Ruth. That is a reference to one of our favorite movies, Red Green Tomatoes. And we don't have to be romantically involved to love each other. We don't have to be engaged or planning a future of marriage to plan our lives together. And maybe that's confusing to a lot of people. But eventually I'll have Jenny on here to share kind of her part in this. But for me, I'm so grateful for that relationship and that kind of love, and how it transcends and how it turns into whatever it is, and how we don't owe anyone like an explanation where they need to. We don't care if anyone understands it. We know how healthy and happy we are in each other's lives, doing life together, raising my daughter, living in the same home still. And over the last few months, it really allowed us to like lock in what this relationship looks like, and where we see it going and how it works. And she's just been in my daughter's life, and she's such an incredible human that's, you know, contributing to my child's like day to day and home, and she adds so much to it, and their relationship is so beautiful. Like, there's no need to let ego get in the way of that, you know. So I'm grateful, because as a child, for me, I saw people, you know, like come in and out of my life based on what they relationship looked like with my mom, and I don't want that for my daughter. I'm so grateful that Jenny is mature enough and evolved enough through a lot of our healing together to get to a place where she was able to also evolve into the freaking incredible friendship that her and I have. She is my rock for sure. And she has been the person that has been there for me over the last few months. While I was processing what had happened in my life, you know, in my heart, and she had my back, you know, and I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And it was funny because this morning on the way to school, Frankie loves Taylor Swift, my daughter, and we were listening to some song of Taylor's where she was like singing about how she got through it and she hit those marks and points even when she was hurting. And I think about myself, I was like listening to it with her, and I was like, you know, despite the kind of pain I had been going through, very deep disappointment and heartbreak and hurt and sadness over the last few months, I did it alone. You know, I did it in terms of like not being in a relationship, which is something very new for me. And I just kept pushing through and like working, and landed a really great job I wanted, and I built new coaching clients, and, you know, got my LLC and ran a 10K, did all these incredible things while I was hurting, booked a print job with my agent, like, you know, just kept hitting the marks and like getting stronger physically, mentally, spiritually, you know, staying sober through it. And that's a new, like, that just shows me where I'm at. When life hits, and it hits hard and it hurts, what tools am I using? How am I reacting? That's my responsibility. What happens to us in life, you know, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. You know, my daughter this morning looked at me over breakfast and was like, you know, Mom, why are people bullies, and why are people mean? And I just had to look at her with like such honesty and say, they're always gonna be. The world is always gonna have people that are mean and that are bullies and that don't like you and that have something to say about you. It's how you react. It's how you choose to respond, knowing that it's out there. And it's interesting because so many of the clients that are coming to me with coaching, you know, they are looking for a strength to be able to respond and react differently to those types of judgments in this world that we live in, whether it be through their family or through the world or through themselves. And I do feel like I've gone through enough of it and know the tools and do the practice and do the work to be able to really hold a space where I know what to do to respond and keep moving and not let things break me. And I hurt like anyone. I hurt. People have tried to hurt me recently. You know, people know I'm more in like, I wouldn't even say, it's just that my situation draws people to have so much more reason to want to attack me or have an opinion. And they try. And I cry and it hurts. No one wants to hear things like that or feel that way. But I keep going. And I'm not going to sit here and just be like, oh, I keep going and I'm so strong and great and amazing. No, what I'm going to say is that it took a lot of work. It took a lot of work to learn how to meditate, breathe, sleep, physically be disciplined in my workouts and my mornings and my nights and my structure. It takes so much work to maintain the healthiest like me I can be. And that has been the best medicine for me because, you know, once upon a time when the doctor's giving me a medication, which I'm not against, but for me, you know, here's a medication, here's therapy, I've done it all, which my therapy changed my life. I'm not against medication, but for me, it never quite solved the problem. For me in my journey that I started over a few years ago of like real fitness, you know, eating unprocessed foods, what I'm putting in my body, what I'm listening to, how I'm starting my day. I've been writing my book, you know, all the things I'm feeding myself, feeding my soul, reading my Bible, you know, over the last few months of our breakup and pain. I just threw myself in my Bible. I just threw myself in the Word because God needed me to come back to Him. He needed me not to run to the world because that was just going to kill me, right? That was just going to hurt. I had to be in the Word. And it was a reminder of like, before you put your all in anyone or anything, come to me. And so I stay in the Word and I read my Bible and, you know, I meditate and I eat and I prioritize my sleep and make sure I get protein and all the things that I do. But those are the things that help me stay moving when life is lifing. Those are the things that I tell my clients they're non-negotiables, right? There are non-negotiables. They don't get to go away when life gets hard or when we're tired or when we're sad or when we're hurt or when someone hurts us. Like, we have to stick to those healthy habits. My sobriety, you know, having a clear head, being able to respond in a clear mind, being able to feel pain and not numb it out, like really feel it. I mean, the amount of nights I sat here and cried in Jenny's arms, just hysterically like a child, and she held me. I don't think that could have happened. It couldn't have happened if I was drunk or drinking or eating shitty, and the tears would come, but it wouldn't be from the same space inside and the same type of healing. It wouldn't have been able to heal the way that it was able to heal. So when I get in these calls and I coach clients, and I started the new year off with like so many new people coming and inquiring and wanting to like work with me, and I just feel so grateful because I love it. I love doing it. I love that I can create a space for people to work through these things with just no judgment, where we just like get still with ourselves and honest with ourselves about like, where are we holding ourselves back? Where did we stop letting ourselves, evolve? Why are we holding on to identities that just don't fit anymore? And how do we step into new identities? How do we, as Joe Dispenza says, break the habit of being ourselves, right? These are things that are possible, but they take work and they take practice and they take consistency and discipline, and you gotta want it. And as a mother who I love my daughter, I want it so bad for her and for me. She's my why. Being a mother is my why. I always say that the how is so much easier when you know your why. And I know why I do all of this, because I grew up in such a space in my head and my heart and my soul that was like wild and free, and I still am. It's just the way that I'm wild and free is so different than the way that I envisioned being wild and free. Once upon a time, I thought, be wild and crazy and do whatever you want and be loud and just like hang out windows and smoke cigarettes, and you're, nobody can tame you. You're free. I wasn't free. I was imprisoned in my own self. I was hurting. I was running. I was avoiding. I was, doing everything in the world to find like adrenaline rushes and glimpses of highs, because I was so sad inside. When I feel free and wild and rebellious and like in charge and dangerous is when I know I am in control of my life, when my life is not in control of me, when I know I'm prepared with the right tools and headspace to take on what's coming, that I'm prepared for it. I know there are good and there are bad. I know from Vanilla Sky that the sweet isn't as sweet without the sour, right? You have to have both. You can't know how good life is if you don't know how hard life is. And I know how hard life is, and I know how good life can be. So finding the right tools and taking care of myself in a way, and being able, thank God for the gift to be able to communicate with others and help guide them to that, is the real freedom, is the real, like, I'm a fucking rebel, because I've taken the time, and I do it every day, right, to put myself in a headspace and a spiritual space and a physical space to face life and to do it with peace and health. And if in here, in my mind, I'm able to be so strong and speak so much love into myself and so much belief into myself and so much worthiness into myself through meditation and all the things I've been talking about, then when people come at me and life comes at me, and it does nonstop, I'm prepared. I'm not completely shaken. I'm standing in a strength of, I can get through this. I'm still lovable. I'm still worthy. Life can still be good in the midst of bad. And that has been my breakthrough. So this week I turned 43 years old on January 8th. I was in Los Angeles seeing Jamie after not seeing him for the last 4 months, 4.5, 5 months, since we said our vows. And it was a lot of emotions. It was a lot. and I'm writing it. I'm writing it all in my book. I'm getting it out there. I'm putting it on paper. I'm processing what I'm feeling. And the beautiful thing was I was home in Los Angeles. And so we have our spots in Malibu, where he was born and where my parents conceived me. And every time I've ever been home with him, we would drive by my mom and dad's apartment where they made me. My dad lived right there on PCH near Moon Shadows. They used to go to Moon Shadows in Malibu, and my dad loved jazz music, and they would go to Moon Shadows and they'd go to the market while my mom was pregnant with me, and my mom used to lay out on the balcony overlooking the ocean. And Jamie, his parents had a house, like this big beautiful house right there on the ocean, and that's where he learned to walk. And like we took my daughter there the last trip she was home, and we always take our photos in front of that house. And that's just been our spot that we've always like gone to. And so this last trip last week, a few days ago, we were driving home and he's like, do you want to go to Malibu? And I was like, yeah. We drove up to Malibu, we walked along the beach. A lot happened on that trip. A lot that is stuff that's, soon to come. But we're walking down the beach and I'm getting these videos and these pictures, and then we're driving back and he's like, do you want to go into Hollywood? And I was like, yeah, because we had met at the El Rey. And so we hadn't been back to the El Rey since we met when I was 20. And I was like, let's just go. And so we went. This is all the night before I flew home. My birthday was the following day. My birthday was going to be the next day. Sorry. So this was on the 6th, January 6th. And we drive to the El Rey and we take pictures in front of it. And then I come home. And then on the 7th, January 7th, I flew home that morning. And I remember taking off and everyone was texting like, I'm so glad you took off because it's super windy and you missed the wind. I used to not be a great flyer, but I am now. So I was like, okay, thank God, just thank God I missed some crazy winds. And I land and basically Los Angeles caught on fire, right? Is what that's going through right now. And I just left our home, Jamie and my home in LA, and had our first like family dinner there and like making it a home and turning it into a home and all the things I had been waiting to do. And I'm just like, oh my God, the house is going to burn down. Oh my God, the house is going to burn down. Had just spent time at his father's house up there as well, and like praying that house didn't burn down. And it's been a whirlwind. And then the very next day on the 8th is my birthday, and I'm trying to just like take it in with all this joy and happiness and be present. And my entire home, Los Angeles, is on fire. Alradena, where I grew up, is literally burning. And I remember being a child in Alradena and Eaton Canyon. We lived across Eaton Canyon. We lived on the same street that they filmed 90210. And that was my home. That was my longest home, my childhood home, all my memories in this home. I grew up there. I went to elementary school there, junior high there, high school and college. This was my home. And it's on fire. I'm just like watching the news and it's just burning. It's burning. And I remember the fires when I was a kid growing up there. But not like this. And so I spent my birthday just trying to take it in, but also so heavy watching my home, what I just left, where I'm from, my family and my friends I'm concerned about, like all of it just on fire. And then I see Malibu go down and Moon Shadows, where we had dinner after Jamie asked me to marry him, where our parents ate their favorite spot, gone. And I watched the news of the strip of Malibu and the house, the apartment that I would always go to when my parents had me, gone. And thank God, like thus far, our house is okay. Jamie has evacuated at this point just because of air quality and everything, but I haven't slept the last few nights. Weird way to jump into the new year, and just such a weird feeling when I like literally got on a plane, left, landed in Texas, and then everything was just in flames, and is currently. And my heart is like hurting for my friends and family, for my own personal loss of parts of my life that are just gone. And I don't know what it's going to feel like when I go home next, since I live there now again, like part-time. What I'm going to see, I just can't imagine. I want it to stop. obviously. And I think a part of what I came into with this, in terms of just the tools and lessons I've learned about hard times in life and getting through things, and the real power being within ourselves, is at the end of the day, when life is lifing and life is about to get really crazy for our country, what are we doing for our internal peace? What are we doing to get through it and rise above and not let things break us, and not let life, just get the best of us, right? Like, how do we come together? How do we come together as like a community, humanity, through what we're going through right now? Maybe it's a test. Maybe it's a test. I feel like everything happens for a reason. Maybe it's a test of God testing our humanity, and how do we love our neighbors and our brothers and sisters and our world and our planet and our community, and most importantly, ourselves through this journey. That's all I'm really going to share. I don't need to get into a whole lot more. I'm sure everybody is just trying to get into the new year and feel as positive as they can be and as optimistic as they can be. And a lot has happened. This was a kickoff to the new year, and it's pretty heavy and hard to get excited. But we always get through stuff. We always do. And we always can land on our feet, and we can always find good in the bad, and we can always know how good things can be after this, because they've been so bad. And that has been my lesson in my 43 freaking years on this life, in this life. And I hope that we take that into this like new year together, that whatever's coming, and it is, what are we doing for ourselves? How are we setting ourselves up internally for the best of it, even when it's the worst? And how are we helping others so that they have the tools and the strength and the community and the friendships and the love to also get through this? Because life, love, marriage, parenthood, motherhood, work, the world around us that we can't control, the fires that we can't control, the politics that we cannot control. How do we find joy? How do we find peace? How do we not let it just completely destroy our nervous system? How do we forgive ourselves and forgive others? How do we have grace? Most of all, how do we have empathy for one another and empathy for ourselves? And just stop thinking you know everything about everyone, and ask more questions, inquire, and be more open-minded to different people, different stories, different love, different families. My family may not look like everybody's, but it's mine, Jenny and I may not look like what everyone thinks we're supposed to look like, but it's the best friendship I've ever had in my life. Our dynamic of co-parenting and people in our lives may not look like what somebody thinks it should look like, but what I'm most proud of is that my child has an army of people in her life that love her like their own and want to be there for her, and I think that's pretty rad. So that is my message for the Real Romi, for my birthday, for the new year. Stay tuned for some great interviews this year, and stay safe. Prayers to Los Angeles and to everyone who's going through this, and family and friends. And if there's ways that we can help, continue to share that, so we can share it with everyone and figure out how we can help. All right. Bye, guys.